All right, what's up guys? Daniel Clayman here. I've been working on this video for a while actually. I just finished a brand new quad. You can see it here in the pictures and I'm going to show you a lot more pictures here. It's a 4-unit apartment building. We just wrapped it up. It's fully leased, cash flowing, and in this video I'm going to walk you through a whole bunch of things including my exact costs that it took to build this thing. So it's on a very skinny lot. It's in Richmond, Virginia, and it was kind of a challenging design, and I'll walk you through some of the design features of this quad. But it sits on a 30-foot wide lot, and the project turned out awesome. Really pretty, big balconies, outdoor spaces, big spacious layouts, lots of natural light. These are the final professional photos that we had our regular photographer take. Again, lots of natural light inside, big living spaces, really nice kitchens with full height pantry cabinets, backsplashes, quartz countertops. These leased up for the most part pretty fast. It was a little bit of a slow summer, but all 4 units are now leased up. So, and again, these are some of the final pictures. This is the balcony. The balconies are 8 by 18 feet. And then we added some really cool features like these mud rooms, which look great, but really didn't cost us much to build at all. Big bathrooms, 48-inch vanities with quartz countertops in the bathrooms. Just overall a really nice design. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what this project cost to build. I'm going to show you the floor plans. I'll show you my exact floor plans in this video, and you're welcome to replicate them if you want. Again, very cool design for these apartments. I'm going to break down the order of events in construction and show you actual pictures throughout the construction. I'm going to show you where I went over budget. I'm very open with my numbers. And this is a big one. I'm going to show you where you having to go by commercial building code in this project drove up costs by over $30 a square foot. Now again, this was still a profitable project. But building by commercial code, when we went to a quad, drove up costs by over $30 a foot. And I will show you the exact breakdown of how that $30 a foot is, what it's composed of. Okay? And finally, I'm going to give you my take on whether you should build quads or not, and how to avoid cost overruns if you do build something like this. Okay, so make sure you watch this whole video. There's no fluff here. We don't, there's no Lamborghinis in the video or all this other bullshit that you find in most YouTube videos. If you follow our YouTube channel, you know it's very deep, hard-hitting content that you can implement and like real information that you can use. So, really quick, my name is Daniel Clayman. That's my wife Dinah. I'm actually recording this on our 8th wedding anniversary. It's today, so we've got 3 beautiful children together. So I build real estate. I build software for real estate investors. I started back in '08 with 0 money. I'm a first-generation immigrant. I got laid off in '08, had absolutely nothing, and I got into real estate. I started renovating one house at a time, doing gut renovations of historic properties, doing some flips, BRRRR deals, and I slowly evolved into doing real estate development. And today I own and manage a pretty large multifamily and mixed-use portfolio. Currently it's north of $60 million, and with the projects we have in the pipeline, it'll soon be over $100 million in projects that we own and manage without almost without outside investors. So in my business right now, I build everything from single family homes and duplexes that look like this to small mixed use developments. This is a bunch of duplexes that we recently finished. Quads, small mixed use buildings, medium sized mixed use buildings, all the way to larger multifamily and mixed use projects. So I like to think that in my business I have a fairly unique view and insights into specific costs when it comes to both small and large projects. I think we're fairly unique in the sense that we build both small and large projects. And so there are ongoing conversations inside my company that we have about, is it better to build small? Because we actually build, if we build stuff by residential building code, it costs way less per foot to build. Or is it better to build big because there's some economies of scale there and we can create more units? Most of what I do is build to rent, but cost per foot goes up. So I'll touch on some of these topics in this video, and I think it's going to be really insightful. Again, if you're looking to get into development, or if you're already developing, this should be very interesting for you to be able to compare costs in your market to my costs. So a few months ago, I put out this video, very similar to what I'm recording for you now, called it's about the 4 duplexes that I built, and I break down my exact costs for those duplexes. And because they were duplexes, I was able to build them by residential building code, so we were able to avoid a lot of things that commercial building code triggers. And so after you watch this video, go back, and if you haven't seen the duplexes video, go back and watch that video so you can see the difference in my market, for me, in my business, in costs between building by residential and commercial building code. And they are significant. So let me give you a quick backstory on this project, and I'm going to show you floor plans, and I'm going to show you all my numbers. So I was already starting on this. How many units was it? It was, we just finished this project also. It's a 16 unit mixed use building, and we had already broken ground on it, and I literally came across this lot across the street. It came to me off market. I had the opportunity to buy it for a very fair price. And because it was a by right development, we were able to very quickly design the project, apply for permits, and break ground, and literally catch the 4 unit project up along to the 16 unit. So you can see here, we were framing up the 16 unit and had already started clearing and doing site work on the 4 unit across the street, right? So here's some more pictures during the project. Right here is the 16 unit project that's framed up, and we are starting to frame across the street. And literally, I treat this whole thing like a 20 unit project, even though it's the 2 buildings are across the street from one another, because we were able to manage them side by side, right? There's some major economies of scale to being able to do both of these projects at the same time from a construction management standpoint, certain sourcing of materials, etc., etc. So this is the survey, this is the original survey for the piece of land for the 4 unit. It's a piece of land that's 30 foot wide, 155 feet deep, 4,650 square feet. So given the current zoning in Richmond, it's R63 zoning. R63 zoning allows a couple of different things. I could have built a detached duplex. You need a minimum of 3,200 square feet. So this lot meets the lot requirement for just a duplex. Or you can build multifamily, and you need 1,000 square feet of land per buildable unit. So that means here I could go up to 4 units. And so when I acquired this piece of land, I had a choice. I could have built just a duplex with some pretty large units, or I could have done a 4 unit building. So I chose to do a 4 unit building here, because if you're building multifamily, you need a 5 foot side yard setback. This meant that the actual quad could be 20 feet wide. And the beauty of doing infill development like this on these skinny, narrow lots, you can use this to your advantage. So I've got a great architect on this project, but I very quickly from the beginning kind of knew what I wanted to do here. I wanted to design a building where all of my living spaces and kitchens were in the front, so that they could get natural light from the front, but also from both sides of the building. I wanted to create living spaces that were flooded with natural light from as many directions as possible. Again, these little infill narrow lots can be challenging, but they also create opportunities to design your buildings the right way so that you create amazing living spaces. So I basically got with my architect and I said, let's design a traditional picture like a Boston triple decker. 1 unit, stacked on top of another unit, stacked on top of another unit. Living spaces in the front, kitchens, and then bedrooms towards the back. But because I can build 4 units here and not 3, I said, hey, let's put a stair tower on the rear of the building, because what you don't want, and let me see if I can do like a little laser pointer here. One thing you can do is you can build, you need ability for your tenants or your buyers, whatever, to get to the 2nd and 3rd floor. So one thing you can do is put a stairwell, cut a stair tower here in the front. But you're eating into valuable living space and daylight and natural light in the front of the building. So instead I said, hey, let's leave all of this as living space. Let's put a stair tower in the rear to access all of the apartments. This is our main entry. But because I can build 4 units here instead of 3, let's add a 3-story townhome to the rear of the building. Let's stack it on the back. Very simple design, but what this allows me to do is retain all my space in the front for living space to be flooded with natural light. The only entry into all of the apartments is here, and this is the only common space. There's no hallways. This stair tower is the only common space for this building. So this is what the site plan looked like. This is the actual site plan we submitted to the city. So here's the triple decker in the front with big balconies, stair tower, and then the 3-story townhome. And these guys have their own stair tower to get from the 1st to the 2nd to the 3rd floor. This is the side profile of the building in our architectural plans. Again, balconies in the front, lots of natural light, big windows, and then this is the only entry into the building right here. And so this is the floor plan. So you can see here, right? 8 by 18 balconies, big outdoor spaces, double sets of French doors in the front to allow lots of natural light and indoor-outdoor flow. And actually I changed these from French doors, and I'll explain to why later. Lots of windows here, lots of natural light in the front, kitchens, and then 2 bedroom and bath suites here with closets, and then stair tower, and then in the rear is the 3-story townhome. So this is the first floor plan. The townhome on the 1st floor has a kitchen and living space and doors out to their own little patio. And then on the 2nd floor, the townhome has a bedroom and a full bath suite with a walk-in closet, and same thing on the 3rd floor. Fairly simple floor plans, but very livable. These are big apartments. They're spacious. They're comfortable. Every bathroom, all of our bathrooms have their own linen closets. Lots of storage, big kitchens. So you can see here, right, the natural, let me turn my laser pointer off here. Lots of natural light in the living spaces. The entire living room is flooded from 3 directions with natural light. And then big kitchens, 8-foot islands in the kitchens, full height pantry cabinets, which were not cheap. I'll go into those costs here in detail. Here's another view if you're staying in the kitchen, right? So you can see the entire front of the building is basically glass. And to me, that's incredibly important, because natural light is really important for the quality of life, but it's also important not to just get natural light from one direction. You want to get natural light into your units from as many directions as possible, and that's what we were able to achieve here. So let me do a quick side note, right? You're watching this, you're seeing my floor plans. I get emails all the time from people watching my videos saying, "Hey, can I buy your plans?" People email me from all over the country, or they comment in our YouTube videos, and the answer is no. You're welcome to. I'm showing you my floor plans. You're welcome to replicate my floor plans in the building that you're doing. But I'm not going to email you. I'm not going to send you or sell you my architectural plans for a couple of reasons. First of all, they're the intellectual property of my architect. I can't sell them. Secondly, you are likely in a different market than me. And I highly advise you to find a good local architect that understands your local building codes, because they vary by state and by locality, that understands your local architectural styles, local construction methods, because they vary state to state, East Coast to West Coast, and your local architectural styles, and work with a good local professional to design a great project. Architectural is not where I recommend skimping money on, just like you wouldn't skimp money on lawyers, right? Get a good real estate attorney, not some bargain basement strip mall attorney, right? It's going to pay for itself. So, are you ready to go deeper and see my actual numbers on this project? Let's dive in. But before we do that, I have a really cool free resource for you. I put together a 6-page detailed, itemized due diligence checklist for when you're buying land. This can save you an insane amount of mistakes and problems and money lost down the road if you're buying land for yourself to develop. And if you go to rehabvaluator.com/land, you can, no strings attached, get full access to this checklist, download it, save it, follow it. It's seriously an invaluable piece of, let's call it, literature that I've put together from years and years of experience and making some of the mistakes that I now avoid because I followed this checklist. So rehabvaluator.com/land, you can get this completely free. All right, so let's dive into the costs. All right, so obviously I use Rehab Valuator to do all my deal due diligence, underwriting, financial modeling, and we also use it for tracking our ongoing costs throughout the project, and then we use it for reporting and for lender draws as well. But here are my full final costs for this project. You can see here I have soft costs broken down against hard costs, and this project came in at $12.30 square foot, $12.30 per square foot in soft costs, and $183.47 in hard costs. And you can see where my variances were, and actually my biggest cost overrun ended up being in the soft costs. So let me break this down really quick. So under soft costs, I have architectural MEP, which stands for mechanical, electrical, plumbing drawings, and civil drawings. I have consulting, actual permits, survey and engineering fees, and holding costs. And now I can break these down further. So my architectural plans here, I was largely on budget. You can see my plans cost me about $2.77 a foot. And so we usually say for commercial building code, you should budget between $2 and $3 a foot for architectural. And then about $1 is usually what I budget for MEP drawings, $1 for structural. And interestingly enough, my biggest cost overrun here was for my civil drawings. I originally thought that because this site is so small and we are not going to be required to do stormwater retention, which I was correct about, I thought we would not need civil drawings. But when we submitted for building permits, I was informed that we do need to provide civil drawings for this project because it is commercial. And so this is where my biggest cost overrun versus budget was. You can see here I had nothing budgeted for civil drawings. So then building permits, pretty self-explanatory. I've got main building permit, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, work in the street permits, and then survey and engineering fees, initial survey work during construction, as-built survey. And by the way, we have in our software pre-built budget templates, which we give you for all kinds of constructions, and they have pre-built scopes of work and some rough costs similar to what you're seeing here. So if you're new to development or just need a shortcut, we provide you with all this stuff. So that's my soft costs. My biggest cost overrun was in needing civil drawings. And so you can see, I typically for these projects, I budget about $10 a foot for soft costs. For smaller projects that are less square feet, this number tends to go up because we have fixed costs. My architect is going to charge me less per square foot for a larger project than he is for a smaller project. So here we're a little bit higher than what I typically budget, which is $10 a foot. Now let's go through my hard costs, and I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. I'm going to show you some construction pictures, and then I'm going to show you a breakdown. And this is really what I want you to stick around for. I'm going to show you a breakdown of exactly what here I would not have to do if I was building by residential code, and how this essentially amounts to over $30 a foot extra because I have to build by commercial code. So my hard costs are broken down. We've got demo. We had to remove a tree. That's really most of the demo. Dumpsters, fencing. Pretty self-explanatory. This largely came in on budget. Dumpsters, toilets, periodic job site cleanup, fence rental, utilities. So I needed to run a new wastewater lateral to the street. I needed to run a new domestic water connection to the street, and then a new fire line connection. So again, we're building by commercial building code, so we need a sprinkler system. And so not only do I have to pay to install the sprinkler system, but I have to run a separate water line to the street for water specifically for the sprinkler system. And then we have labor to run all of these laterals to the street. So this largely came in on budget. And then we've got site work. So obviously we had to scrape the lot. And then when we scraped the lot and when we removed that tree in the rear, that tree had such deep roots that it created this giant gash in the back of the lot. And it's not as simple as backfilling it with dirt. We had to backfill it with stone and compact it. Otherwise, eventually when we put parking in, it would have settled. So this cost quite a bit of money. So you can see here, budget versus actual, right? My site work came in at about $13 a foot. And this includes digging and pouring footers, concrete for footers, and then building the foundation. So once we scraped the lot, we started to dig footers, and then we pour concrete into the footers and start building the block foundation on top of the footers, and then backfill it with stone so that my plumber can then come in and run groundwork, which is all the plumbing, mainly sewer line that goes underneath the concrete slab. So $66,000 for site work, including footers and foundation. And then all of my concrete costs are here, right? So we needed a lot of stone, $8,000 of stone to backfill the slab. And then insulation, you can see here in the pictures, insulation for the slab. And then all the concrete, $11,200 for concrete to pour the slab. And then we pay labor to pour that slab and to finish that concrete. So you can see here, we put mesh on top of the stone and then pour the concrete slab, and then we're ready to start framing. So my other concrete costs here were, I had to pour an ADA ramp in order to make this ADA accessible. So this added quite a bit of costs to the project. And then we'll talk about balconies here in a second. So overall, my concrete for this project cost me $53,000, or about $10.50 a foot. And again, because this was a small project, I did not have to do a stormwater retention facility here, which is actually nice because it saved me quite a bit of money. And the cool thing here is, as I'm auditing this at the end of the project, I can click any one of these cost categories and I can see, boom, when we paid somebody for it. So let's move on to framing, right? Once the concrete slab is poured, we're ready to start framing. And framing came in between materials and labor at almost $23 a foot, over $2 over budget. Now let's see where we went over budget. I underestimated my main structure lumber. all of my 2x4s, 2x6s. I underestimated them. We end up having to buy quite a bit more lumber. So you can see almost $2 a foot extra in lumber. My lumber here cost me almost $60,000, not including my floor and roof trusses. So, and again, if I want to audit this, I can click and I can see every transaction that we paid out for lumber throughout the project. And my bookkeeper goes in and enters these values into the software. So trusses cost me another $16,000. So lumber materials alone for this project were over $75,000, or roughly close to $15 a foot. And then my labor ended up coming in higher. I underestimated that a little bit because there were some additional labor costs that had to do with specifics for structural drawings that my framer ended up charging for. So labor came in at $6 a foot. And then the staircase, stair towers, and then we actually did not end up having to use a crane here. We used the lull. So you can see my framing on this project came in at $115,000, or just under $23 a foot. So the building is framed, then my framer installs windows and patio doors. My windows and patio doors came in at $33,707, right on budget. And you can see, and I got bids for windows way ahead of time, right? So my windows came in on budget, $19,000. And then all of my exterior doors, including my patio, my fiberglass patio doors here, came in just under $15,000 for this project. So overall, pretty on budget. And then once the windows and doors are framed up, we install the roof and we dry the building in. And so this is a drone shot right after we completed the roof and the balconies, which we'll talk about in a second, but it's a rubber roof. And one of the things to point out here is, and I'll talk about this more in the video, the design of this roof really required, it was more of a complicated roof design than I normally like, because it had parapet walls, and parapet walls require pretty expensive metal roof coping. You can see here in the rear and in the front, metal coping. And so let's look at our roofing costs. My roof came in, including metal coping, at $18,500. Out of that, materials for the main roof were $8,000. Labor to install the main roof was $4,000. And then material and labor for coping, just the metal coping around the roof, was over $6,600. So here are my costs for my roof: $3.70 a square foot. And then once the roof is on, we start installing balconies. Now, I had this was an experiment. This was a fairly expensive balcony design because it required, I wanted big balconies, 8 foot deep, 18 feet wide. So we decided to do this for the first time, and we did this across the street. We installed steel columns running all the way up, and then we attached to the steel columns these steel decks for the second and third floor, and then we poured concrete inside those decks to form up our balconies. So from a process standpoint, this was fairly easy to execute, but not cheap. Let's look at my steel costs. If we go to metal, you can see my structural steel for my balconies was $23,000. And then I had additional costs here for the railings. We used powder-coated aluminum rails on the balconies. You can see this is the concrete being poured. And then I had additional railings on the first floor all along the handicap ramp. And because this is a commercial project, we have to make the first floor apartment handicap accessible. So just the handicap rails alone cost me $14,000. That's a big cost. All right, let's keep it going because there's a lot more I want to cover here. So once my balconies are done, we start doing trade rough-ins. So you can see here where my plumbing came in. Basically on budget, we had a couple of cost overruns, but my plumbing here, including all the materials, was just under $9 a foot. Tubs and diverters, water heaters, labor came in right on budget. And our trim out materials are under budgeted for, so we end up having to spend an extra $2,300 on trim out materials here. No shower doors because we use single piece fiberglass tubs. So that's plumbing. Electrical was just a little bit over budget at $11.62 a foot, or $58,000 in this project. And electrical included all the labor and wire, all of the light fixtures. And again, you can see I under budgeted a little bit because we end up going with more expensive light fixtures here. We had to dig a conduit for the power company on the outside. I under budgeted that as well. And then we had a low voltage contract here. And our low voltage, that includes all the security cameras as well as access controls for the building. And so this came in right on budget. So including low voltage and all the materials, my electrical was $11.62 a foot. And then my HVAC was just under $10 a foot here, fully on budget. So we rough in electrical, plumbing, HVAC into the walls, and then we start insulating, hanging drywall, and then painting. So my insulation here was right on budget at $2 a foot. Drywall and paint, we actually came in ahead of budget. I overestimated how much drywall we were going to need. And so my drywall and paint all in came in just under $9 a foot, or $44,000 in this project. Once drywall and painting is finished, we move on to doors, trim, and casework, including countertops. So you can see here we installed kitchen cabinets, we installed bathroom vanities, and we installed mudrooms as well. And my costs here for all of the kitchens, appliances, and countertops for the 4 apartments came in just over $56,000, or $11.20 a foot. And so I went over budget on a couple of things here. I overspent on the cabinets because I really wanted really big kitchens with big islands, and we opted to go for full height pantry cabinets, which are expensive. It would have been cheaper just to frame in a normal pantry with a door and some wire shelves. Same thing on my quartz. I went over budget here because we wanted big, deep 8-foot islands here, really luxurious. My vanity number here is actually so actually scratch what I just said, right? Because my vanity number here was included with my cabinets. So my cabinets were actually on budget. My quartz was over budget. But then I saved a decent amount of money on appliances because I shopped around. So all in all, we actually ended up saving money versus my budget here. So casework is installed, then we do tray trim out, which is where the plumber, electrician, and HVAC come in. Now that the walls are done, painting is done, they put up light fixtures, they put in plumbing fixtures, and they put in grills for the HVAC units. And then last thing that we do in the project is we install flooring. So you can see here my flooring came in just over, so my interior doors and trim came in at $23,678, or $4.7 a foot. And then my flooring, I end up saving some money versus budget on my flooring. Flooring came in at $21,448, or just over $4.25 a foot. And you will notice if you watch my videos that we really like to look at almost everything on a dollar per foot basis, because that's really, to me, the best way to standardize from project to project and be able to estimate from project to project efficiently. Right, so flooring came in. On the first floor, we put down 20 mil LVP. On the second and third floor, we actually nailed down 3/4 inch oak hardwoods. And so here are all my flooring costs. And then once flooring is done, it's a matter of coming in and just putting up all the accessories: blinds, wire shelving, closet shelving, etc., etc. So what you will notice is I've got a whole category here called grading and landscaping, and I've got a whole category here called other. And so under grading and landscaping, we had some things that really went over budget, which is finish grading. And the reason why finish grading went over budget is because we had to bring up the rear parking up significantly in order to make the grade level with the building to make it handicap accessible. And then we had to build a retaining wall because now we brought the grade up so much. And I've got paving parking lot here. This is what paving the parking lot cost me. And then obviously I did not budget for this retaining wall that we had to build in the rear. So this was an extra $8,200. So all in all, my grading and landscaping came in almost $3 a foot over what I had originally budgeted because I did not account for some of the existing site conditions that we would have to tackle. But the good news is I had a big contingency in here that we only ate into by $8,300. So what I lost here in grading and landscaping, I more than made up in by not eating into my entire contingency, right? The things that fell into the contingency is just a bunch of random things here that you can see. Tinting stairwell windows because that elevation just happened to receive a lot of sun. Mudrooms, I didn't really budget originally for the mudrooms, but I wanted to build mudrooms in each apartment, and that cost me $5,300, and so I put that into my contingency. So you can see here, having a really healthy contingency in your budget helps to make sure that your project actually comes in relatively on budget. So what I lost here, I'm more than made up for with my contingency. So hopefully this gives you some insights into the costs, right? Again, this project came in all in all between soft and hard costs at $195.70 a square foot, or just under $3 a foot over what I had originally budgeted. So now let me show you some really important data points. So take a look at this. This is what this project encountered as additional costs because we had to build it by commercial building code. And these are some very good data points. So the column on the left is the gross dollar amount. Column in the middle is dollars per square foot. And on the right is dollars per unit. So if I was building by residential code, so in my market, it's single family homes and duplexes. In some markets, you can build triplexes and quads by residential building code. Building code is different state to state and sometimes localities to localities. So I'll touch base on that deeper in a second. But in my market, if I'm building single family homes or duplexes, I can build them by residential building code. If I'm building triplexes and bigger, I'm building them by commercial code. So because I'm building here a quad by commercial building code, I needed to have civil drawings. I needed to have engineered mechanical, electrical, and plumbing drawings. Whereas if I'm building a single family home, we don't need to draw to submit for permits electrical, plumbing, or mechanical drawings at all. I needed structural drawings, professionally engineered. I needed a fire suppression system, a sprinkler system in this building, which is great. It's better for everyone's safety. I'm all for installing sprinkler systems. They do add quite a bit to the cost, but ultimately it helps protect my tenants. So that's great. So not only do we need to install a sprinkler system throughout the building, but now we need to install a separate fire alarm system to monitor that sprinkler system and alert the fire department and the monitoring company in case there is a fire. So the fire suppression system added over $5 a foot to this project, almost $26,000 or $6,400 per unit. But then fire monitoring system added another $1.15 per square foot to this project. And now not only do I need to install a sprinkler system and a fire alarm system, but I now also need to run, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, a separate water line to the main running in the street to feed the sprinkler system. So there's a regular water line that supplies water to my apartments for showering, toilets, but then there's a completely separate fire line that needs to run. And that cost me an additional $19,600, including connection fees that I have to pay to the city because I have to pay them a separate connection fee for that fire line. And not only that, but I also need a backflow preventer specifically for the fire line as well. So all in all, you can see just the fire suppression requirement added five. Let me turn on my laser pointer here again. Or actually, even better, I can do a highlighter. So look, just the fire suppression alone added this, added this. So over $10 a foot just for sprinkler. And then again, because I'm building by commercial building code, I have to have either a ground floor ADA accessible apartment, or I need to have an elevator in my building that takes handicapped tenants to the second and third floor. In this case, it's only a 4-unit building and there's no elevator. It would not have made any financial sense to install an elevator. So I had to make the ground floor apartment, and there is only one that can be ADA accessible. I had to make it ADA accessible. So as I mentioned, we had to do all kinds of extra site work in order to make that one apartment on the ground floor ADA accessible. And in a small project like this, it really doesn't pencil out that great, right? So the additional site work, pouring the concrete ADA ramp and installing the big powder coated aluminum rail along that handicap ramp added over $5.50 a square foot to this project. And then we had to pave the parking lot and do additional site work. And then the last thing that really increased the costs here to build by commercial building code is just the additional costs of mechanical, plumbing, and electrical work that had to be performed. On residential projects, on a dollar per foot basis, this work tends to be cheaper. So you can see on this project, commercial building code added over $32 a square foot, or $40,000 per door to my costs. And this is given the fact that I did not have to do a stormwater retention or detention facility. If I had to do that, we would have probably had another $10 a foot added onto the costs. So this was a very interesting exercise for me to perform, but should also provide you some very good data points on building by residential versus commercial code. At least this is what I'm experiencing in my market. So if I were to do this project over again and still build the quad, there's a couple of things that I could have done differently to generate some savings. So let me go through that. First of all, a simpler roof design. As I mentioned in the beginning, instead of just doing a flat roof or a shingle roof with gutters on the outside of the roof, we built, the architectural design here called for a parapet wall. When you build parapet walls, you need to put a cap on top of that wall to keep rain from going into the wall. So the metal coping around this parapet wall added over $6,000 to the cost between materials and labor. So the roof design could have been simpler. Different balcony designs. This was an experiment on my end. I wanted to play around with this construction method and see if we liked it and see what true costs really ended up being. But on a small building this size, we could have built balconies a lot cheaper. This is a lot of structural steel. This is a lot of concrete. Now, in order to get balconies this big onto the building, right, because these are 8 foot deep by almost 20 feet wide, I don't think we could have gotten around using structural steel here. We could have potentially done it with 6x6s running all the way up, but structural steel to generate balconies this big likely would have been required anyway. But there is a cheaper way to design these balconies. This is a lot of steel, a lot of concrete. This added over $20,000 to my costs, if not more. And then we could have done cheaper kitchens. Again, full pantry height cabinets are expensive. 8-foot islands are expensive. If I had to save money here, I could have toned down my kitchen designs a little bit. And then all of these apartments are 1,100 square foot or bigger. If I really had to generate savings here, I probably could have reduced my overall size of my apartments by 50 to 100 square feet and still had really great apartments. Well, generated probably similar rents, but I could have saved some money there. So I hope this is helpful, right? So if you've made it this far in the video, you're probably asking, so what's the story? Should I bother? Should I build quads? So here's what I would say. Some things you should consider. First of all, look at your local building code. Look at where your residential code switches over to your commercial code. Where does commercial code get triggered? Look at your stormwater retention requirements. Where does where does it trigger for you to start collecting stormwater on site instead of just dropping it via downspouts onto the sidewalk or the street? Look at where your ADA requirements kick in, at what unit count, because all of these things add significantly to your cost. And code varies by state. I pulled this chart from a site, and I want to give credit to the site, but I found this chart to be very helpful. Building codes vary state to state, and in some states, there is, on top of the state building code, each locality overlays their own requirements and codes. So this chart shows you where you have individual state building codes in green, state and local, and where in which states building code varies county to county. And so you need to research your local building code to see where residential commercial code switches over to commercial building code, because once it switches over to commercial building code, costs go up quite a bit, and you may decide that it's not worth building by commercial building code unless you're building a larger project where you can amortize all of those costs over more apartments. I'd also consider your experience level. A lot of people that watch our YouTube videos are newer investors, or a lot of you guys are rehabbers that want to switch into development. And I recommend for anybody, when you're starting in development, do what I did, which is start by building by residential code. You don't have to engineer your drawings. You don't have to do a lot of the stuff that I just showed you. And so it's a great way to learn. Start small, start building by residential building code, and evolve into larger projects when you feel comfortable. And then at the end of the day, what this ultimately comes down to is, do the numbers work? Ultimately, that's all that matters, right? I just showed you that this project, because I chose to build by commercial building code, 4 units instead of a duplex, added $30 a foot to my costs. But the numbers still penciled out. This project is fully leased, it cash flows great, and in the end, it's going to make me a lot of money. So at the end of the day, what truly matters is not cost per unit, cost per square foot, but when you underwrite the deal, do the numbers pencil out? So to that end, we have a ton of training on our YouTube channel, so make sure you subscribe. I mean, we've got videos on finding land, we've got videos on evaluating what you should pay for land, on full development process, on getting financing for your development projects. I mean, everything you can think of, and we're constantly adding more and more content to our YouTube channel. And of course, the software that I've personally been building and tweaking and improving for the last almost 15 years, Rehab Valuator, helps you with deal analysis, deal underwriting, truly seeing whether the deal will pencil out or not. We give you data on owners and property data nationwide, sales comps nationwide, rental comps nationwide. So if you're building to rent, we give you nationwide rental comps that you can pull instantly for every bedroom type in order to create your pro formas to see if your project will pencil out. And of course, a full-scale project management suite to help you plan your projects, budget your projects, schedule your projects, but also track them in real time so you have clarity and granularity into your data. And then, of course, we help you create deal funding pitches for your lenders, private lenders, hard money lenders, banks that look like this, that help you secure funding for your deals. So, I hope you found this video valuable. Leave me your comments, questions below. Leave me your thoughts. I try to respond to everybody in the comments. And then, of course, if you don't have the software yet, you can go to rehabvaluator.com/trial. Grab a 14-day trial of Rehab Valuator. You get everything that I just mentioned. And again, we've got a fantastic online reputation, thousands and thousands of paying clients. We are religious about our support, and we will take great care of you. All right, that's it. Thank you for watching. Again, subscribe to the channel, leave me your comments, and we'll see you on the next one.